So we'll go ahead and call the special meeting to order Wednesday, September 11th, 2024. Deb, call the roll.
Ball. Present. Jensen.
Present.
Maroney.
Present.
Scott.
Present.
Zierden.
Present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
Liberty and justice for all.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with a modification. I know via email that staff sent out, this meeting is more or less to discuss candidates for the interim city administrator position. So just amending it that number 5 is interim city administrator candidate discussion and hiring.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to just clarify, because I know in the past we've talked about the difference between the intention behind a special council meeting and a workshop meeting. Looking at the public notice that was provided, it actually mentions of both a special meeting and then this workshop will be held on September 11th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. So is the council looking at this as in fact a special council meeting or a workshop? The primary difference being at workshops, we agreed that there would be no action taken.
This is a special meeting. The action we will be taking is deciding on when we would like to do interviews.
Well, then I would just have to point out that the public notice that was provided is certainly confusing and misleading to the public when it makes mention of it as a workshop meeting.
Do we know where it was posted as a workshop?
I have the notice pulled up right here. It's on the city's website. Looks like Administrator Shansky was the one that posted it. At least it has David C. Chansky, City Administrator Clerk, at the bottom.
And this is under calendar of events or?
This is actually under public notices, which again, I think the public generally found confusing. Usually a meeting of the council is found under the area of council meetings, but in this case, it was under public notices.
So I will say that there is a post out in the front area, and it was posted on Friday because I was here with Deb, and it says the Breezy Point City Council has called a special meeting of the City Council. This workshop will be held on, yes. So I do agree, but it still says that we are calling for a special meeting of the council. So I think that it does suffice the terms of a special meeting that would allow us to make decisions. But I do agree, it was probably in typing error, given that we were under a deadline. I believe this was posted almost end of day on Friday, which we needed the 3-day notice, so we made it in on time. It does say special meeting.
Right, second sentence starts this.
But it does say, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the point of clarification I was wanting to seek is, are we seeing this as an actual special council meeting?
Yes.
Where action will be taken, or is this a workshop? Because again, the notice contained both.
Yep, and it is noticed as a special meeting.
And the only other thing that I would point out is, I believe as a council, we also came to agreement that in order for the public to be able to attend the meetings of the council outside of our reoccurring monthly meeting, that we would strive for them to start no earlier than 6 o'clock.
I don't remember that being something that was set in stone.
Well, it certainly was.
I know that there are members of the public who have also stated that they can't come after 5:30 because of family. So I think that the point really for us was what time could everyone on council meet, because that was more important at the time that everybody was here. And that was the consensus that we had gotten back, and we had only heard from the 4 of us, and you had not responded. So that was the time that we all had agreed upon.
Yeah, and I hadn't responded because that's another point that I want to mentioned, I think it was completely inappropriate on a Friday afternoon, no less than 2 hours to respond, to come to a point of deciding when the meeting and at what time it was going to be held. You're right, I didn't respond because in less than 2 hours notice, email on a Friday, there's work obligations and other things going on. If others could respond within that short period of time, that's great.
Well, I'm really happy that you were able to be here with us today for the meeting, so thank you for being here. Anyone else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we will go ahead and move on to the discussion and hiring. So I am going to start us off because I am not quite sure how members of the public were already discussing candidates, given the fact that the city had not disclosed anything about candidates that were being spoken to. So I just want to clarify, just like it stated in the article, that when Administrator Chansky left, he gave me names that he potentially thought could be people to call, and it was not my job to interview them. It was my job to call and see if they were interested. And so that is exactly what I did. And the email that I sent was not quote unquote making a recommendation. It was the fact that I had called each of them, and we had 2 that responded. And I did not ever hear back from the League of Minnesota Cities on any other candidates. So I just wanted to clarify that in no way, shape, or form was I the one that was making the recommendations. I was given names, and I did send out an email asking for anyone else who had a recommendation to send in, but no one else has sent in. So we have 2 resumes in front of us because those are the 2 who responded and showed interest. So we can go ahead and discuss that.
If I could, I have a question before we move into that. And this is an issue, a concern, if you will, that I've raised before. I don't recall the council ever making a decision to authorize the mayor to contact candidates to have any level of discussion on filling this interim position.
Well, I'm not sure if you
think
know
it's within-
statute, but if the city does not have an administrator or assistant administrator, then I am technically in charge of the city as the head of the city. So you can laugh if you would like to, but it is my job to step in as in that role. So if you know otherwise, please let me know. But it is my role to step in.
Where does it state that?
I will send that information to you.
I would love it if you would, because the League of Minnesota Cities handbook says that individual council members have no administrative authority.
Councilman Scott, listen, we are
Unless
not here to
directed
argue.
to
'Cause
do
that
so
is-
by the council.
That's actually what you end up doing every time you sit here at the table. So please just stop. We are here to talk about the 2 candidates that were sent. You had an opportunity to send in recommendations of candidates. Should you have known of any, you could have contacted them. I even gave you all of their contact information. I said, please call if anyone, I don't know if anybody did. So I'm not here to argue with you tonight.
I'm not here to argue with you. I'm simply asking the
Good.
question, when
There
did
is
we
no
as a council decide to authorize you to contact
We are
candidates?
going to move on, and we are going to discuss
I'm
the
sorry if you don't like the question.
You are out of order, and I will call us out of this meeting. So you need to knock it off, and we are going to discuss the candidates.
I don't plan on knocking it off anytime
You are
soon.
out of order, Councilman Scott. We are here to discuss the candidates. Thank you.
Out of order according to who?
Councilman Scott.
I'm just trying to get a simple question clarified
Councilman
and
Scott,
answered.
please. I do not want to end this meeting right now.
I'll interject real quick.
This is,
Whether it's not or the mayor's position or not, needed to be done. I even contacted one of the candidates and had an open discussion with them. I don't know if anybody else has. Something needed to be done, and who, we can't wait until the next meeting to decide that. So
And why not?
why not?
Yeah, I mean, what's the overall sense of urgency? We have competent city staff that I'm sure can keep things moving forward until our next city council meeting.
I would agree with you that we have top-notch staff that can do that, but why not have the discussion about what our next steps are? And that's what we're here for tonight.
Especially due to the fact that it's budget time of year. I mean, there's a lot for the council to accomplish. And staff is taking on extra duties. But budget, I mean, that's our primary responsibility. We need to get that done and keep the city running. And I think we need to look for an interim administrator. It's important.
Yeah, whether it was Madam Mayor, us, anybody, and that's where, you know, the recommendation, I only could think of 2 potential candidates, myself, which were previous employees here with city or at least contracted. I'm not sure if you knew anybody as your previous, as an administration, if you know anybody that's still interested or has interim potentials. This is where we are at right now, and if there's more, then great. But until we further discuss the candidates that we have in front of us, that's where I'm at right now.
Well, honestly, I think we are probably a step or 2 ahead of, at least to me, where it feels like we should be. I mean, where's the discussion about the organization as a whole in looking to fill the interim position? Where are we in any conversation about organizational structure and how we might want to see things look differently? What other changes might be well-serving to our current staff as well as the citizens to think about and consider? Quite honestly, we may have people on staff right now that have the experience, the interest, and the abilities to serve in an interim capacity. But here we are, launching right into considering people externally before we're having any conversations at all within the current city organization.
I have had conversations with staff.
As have I.
I've come in and asked staff opinions on direction, and they've supported a interim administration. Now, if we go posting for full-time administration, I think we still need somebody in charge. And if one of the staff members feels confident in their abilities and wants to apply for a full-time position, as eventually we will discuss, because an interim is that of a short-term instance, then we can certainly have that discussion with a current member of staff if they feel confident in applying for that. I encourage that. I think we have great staff that if they feel confident in what they can do and they want to take themselves to the next level, that is something for sure that I would encourage.
And they could apply if they felt that that was something that, but I mean, I do feel like our staff currently has full-time work that they're doing within the city, so we do not want to take, in my opinion, staff away from their current full-time role. I don't know if any staff has heard of anyone within our staff that was interested in serving as an interim administrator. Not that I've heard of, because I've been in here and I've been talking to staff. So we are here tonight. This is typical of a city when this happens. 2 candidates who have the experience, who are willing to interview. So I would like to move on to discussing the 2 candidates that we have, and then we can discuss what next steps are and when we would like to set up interviews with them or not. So we can discuss that. So based on the 2 interviews or the 2 resumes that have been sent in, what are your initial thoughts?
I'll start that conversation, if I may, Madam Mayor, is Mr. Bonsack has been previously with the city as their planning and zoning administration, and I feel confident with his background. He would be a quick and easy fit to come back in and familiar with the city, familiar with policy, familiar with all of us. We've had the chance to work with him all of last year. And he's had an extensive background, previously up at Cross Lake as an interim, previously at the City of Aiken, City of Chisholm, all as interim city administrators. This was after running City of New Prague for, 30-some years. So with his extensive background, knowledge of the city, I think it would be wise of us to sit down and interview with him and or pursue a negotiation of a description of work for interim purposes, which one job would be to also assist us in hiring a full-time administrator, if that's the way the council decides with the interim.
I agree with Councilman Maroney. I think that makes sense.
He's familiar with staff. Worked in the city, so he'd be able to get up to speed fairly quickly.
I would agree. I think we should interview Jerry. Anybody that can be a city manager for over 30 years is quite an accomplishment. Like Councilmember Maroney had stated, filling in Cross Lake, I think his background is good. The other candidate, I liked the resume, but when I did a little research online, there were some red flags that I was not comfortable with.
I will go ahead and I agree with you definitely on Jerry Bonsack. I think that with the second candidate though, Patrick Russo did state, and he said that I could let everybody know that he actually thought John was a great candidate and should have gotten the job in Brainerd. And I think there are two sides to every story, especially within city government. I think we actually know that. So I think that he deserves the benefit of the doubt to at least come in and interview with us and then give an opportunity to discuss maybe some of the things surrounding what happened in Little Falls. I don't think it hurts us to interview him. He is looking for full time, and who knows, maybe it is a fit, and maybe there's some things that can be clarified. So I think that it is in our best interest to interview both candidates and get a little background, and that's kind of where I'm at with it.
At this time, I'd feel more confident with just looking at Mr. Bonsack. Not to say that the other candidate would be a potential for full-time later on, just knowing that what we're in the midst of project-wise, budget-wise, I believe Jerry would be able to hit the ground running more, pick up the pieces, and continue on with what we're working on right now without bringing somebody from outside completely new into the city and the environment. I believe it would be just a overall smoother transition. And again, if the other candidate wants to apply if we post for that full-time administration position, I encourage them to apply. But I feel confident with Mr. Bonsack.
Do you think that there could potentially be any pushback similarly to choosing the contractor for the city hall? We kind of had the same reasoning for saying, well, we trust the contractor, we know the contractor, and then later on, we kind of said, well, maybe we should have looked at more than one contractor. So I just don't want it to come back later that, we should have looked at more than one candidate because we've run into some of those issues prior. And I don't disagree with you. I think Jerry's a fantastic choice and can hit the ground running. And by no means am I saying no, but I'm just saying for the sake of the public, if we had two resumes, I think it would look better if we interviewed two people, not to say again. I agree, I
understand that viewpoint, and where my counter argument would be is Jerry has been a contractor with us before. He's had a number of years with Breezy Point here, over 12 years. And so it's not really reaching something new, and it's, like I say, short term. This is a filling for 2 to 5 months maybe as things progress.
Are you okay with any hourly wage that Jerry is going to ask for?
I think that's still up for city council to discuss and negotiate. Now, whether that's the full council, or if we want to make a subcommittee for this, either or, but I think it'd be wise of us to meet with Jerry and get a proposal from him.
Well, I only ask that because there could be a huge difference too in what each one would be asking wage-wise, and not have to compare. I don't want to run into any issues, especially if you know, one is asking for more. Not to say that I wouldn't pay whatever he was asking for. I'm just saying I think for the sake of being transparent and having the two options, it would be better for us to look at. But I'd like to hear what everyone else also thinks.
Well, I'm more than a little curious as to why you think city staff and the community would be served at all on an interim basis, even considering an individual that was essentially let go on account of an ineffectiveness or inability otherwise to develop the needed relationships with city staff and the community.
Have you ever not been let go or separated because of inefficiencies in a role that you've had?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
So, beyond that, I feel that your remark that you just made was no different than the rudeness that you've been displaying to me
Okay.
for quite some time.
Double
And
check.
just to let you know,
Double
it
check.
doesn't bother me in the least.
That's okay. I just wanted to double check.
I'm just raising the question, why would you be recommending or otherwise suggest we consider a candidate that's just this year been let go or asked to resign, however you want to frame it? He no longer works for that city, and it's public knowledge that there were definite concerns about an inability to have the needed relationship and rapport with city staff.
Anybody
You
else?
want to potentially invite an individual like that into our community.
What are your thoughts on Jerry, Brad?
I'm fine with considering Jerry and interviewing him and seeing if where he's at and you know, the amount that he's going to need to be an interim is something that makes sense and is a good fit for the city.
Yeah, I guess I'm still with, let's interview Jerry, and I don't feel we should interview the second candidate.
Yeah, I think there's consensus on Jerry. I guess at this point, I think we can wait. And if other candidates want to apply when we open up like the broader position, then that timing maybe makes more sense.
Okay.
And I'm only okay with interviewing Jerry at this point in the fact that that's clearly where the majority of the council's at. I still think, and I will continue to think, that we're missing an opportunity within our current city staff. I really highly doubt it. No offense, Councilmember Maroney, that you've spoken to everyone on city staff that may have the background and the interest to serve in an interim capacity. I don't know, did you meet with every city staff member?
I did not meet with every city staff member. I met with, out of administration, 4 or 5. So you are correct that I did not meet with all staff members.
Is there a staff member that you are particularly interested in serving in this role or has expressed interest to you, or is this just something that you're...
There's not, but I have to believe that even within a relatively small, you know, staff that we have in the city, that how do we know that there's not someone that is in a department that you wouldn't necessarily think of somebody being in that has the background and would have the interest and with some modification of their current roles couldn't step into the position on an interim basis. That's simply the point that I'm trying to raise. But I can also understand that there's little to no appetite to even be having those discussions, to be even entertaining organizationally. You know, where are we at and how do we see the best way moving forward? When I think of a seamless transition, I can't think of a more seamless transition than to potentially have somebody currently on city staff move into that role.
Well, then what I would like to suggest is that we, whether or not we can set a date, I'd like to set a date that we can interview Jerry, but also open an invite to any current staff member to certainly ask for an interview for an interim position. And that can be going to either Madam Mayor or all of us, in fact, since it's a staff member emailing us. And I would have an open interview that if they so choose to submit for application for the interim, that they can do so, and we would certainly interview them on the same date.
Yes, please send the resume to
I'm fine with
Deb.
that.
Yeah. I think that's.
Well, I appreciate that. I feel like for once, an idea that I had actually grew some legs.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it makes sense. I don't have a problem with it. Interview Jerry, give staff an opportunity if they so want, choose to apply. That is perfectly fine.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
Do we want to make a motion with a date of interviews and time frame? Or do we want to direct a member of council to negotiate or try to work on timeframes?
Yep, I will
What's
communicate.
the best?
With Jerry and Deb, and we can set up times and give them to you guys. Let's just ask Jerry first if he's available, because I would hate to put a date out and then him not be available to interview. Unless, has he given you any direction on when he is available? Okay.
So as a council, we can't meet without a 3-day notice. So we'd be looking at next week at minimum. Do we want to make a motion to approve to interview on a future date to be determined, Mr. Bonsack, as well as any other candidate that we would ask for a consideration to submit their resume by no later than Friday at 5 p.m., 4 p.m., we'll call it, since I know that's when city closes. And then work amongst ourselves with a potential of a special meeting to be held Wednesday the 18th, 19th, or 20th. And we can send out an email once we confer with either the staff member that has applied or Mr. Bonsack on dates and times of availability.
Just a couple of thoughts, Mike, on what you mentioned. I believe you referenced any other candidates that expressed interest. That's where I would slightly disagree, because it feels to me like we're back to considering the individual.
You meant staff members, though.
Yeah, I meant staff members.
Okay,
sorry.
I just wanted to
No, this is
clarify.
just
So,
internal staff.
okay.
It's internal staff that feels confident that they would like to step up to that interim role, and Mr. Bonsack. So, yep, narrowing it down to current staff members.
Okay.
What
Is that your
would be-
motion?
Yes,
Okay.
and date and time to be determined later.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
And staff members are to express interest as a candidate, how? By just contacting?
Sending Deb and I a resume, similarly to how we have done it before.
Or
Or
could
the
they
entire
email
council.
any other council member as well?
I would ask at this point that staff would email the entire council the interest. We've all received the resumes from the other two candidates. There's no need to go to Deb first and disperse. They have that right to email us their candidacy.
Okay.
Okay, have Deb CC'd, make sure Deb's CC'd on that, though.
Yes, because Deb would be lining up the interviews for said times. Yes.
Correct, correct. Yeah, and I believe Jerry is going to be a great candidate for the city. He'll be able to pick up quickly. So for the sake of moving the city along, I also will be, voting in unanimously with the rest of the council. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Just for discussion's sake, before we do adjourn, so once by Friday, 4 o'clock, whichever staff member would like to email us, we can. We're setting up a special meeting for interviews for the 18th, 19th, or 20th. That is the goal at this time.
Well, it won't be a special meeting because it won't be open to the public.
Interviews are open to the public.
Oh, they
I
are
did learn.
open.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Is
Yep.
that how we've done it?
I had a little re-education, yes. Meetings for our interviews for administration, I believe, are open to the public.
Yes, because I attended the previous one as a
Oh, for
resident.
Administrator Chansky? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So,
Sounds good.
okay.
All right.
So I heard there being consideration of potential dates.
I think we should discuss those dates real quick just to see.
Well, I would agree, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I thought I heard you say the 17th, 18th, or 19th.
18.
18th, 19th, 20th.
Yep.
I give it 18, 19, 20th due to the fact that we're allowing any staff members to apply before Friday the 13th at 4 p.m. So that way we have a 3-day notice to publish exactly who we're interviewing.
And we'll get in touch with Jerry and see what days and times are available to him in those 3 days, and we will send that out to council with those, and then from there, we can all decide what date and time works the best for us to set the meeting up.
So it would make sense at this point to at least have some conversation about what would work for the majority or all of us, hopefully?
We will wait until Jerry tells us what will work for him.
Because I am traveling for work and out of the area on both the 18th and 19th, so I would certainly lean towards the 20th as a meeting date. To the
I
extent
do
that it
think
matters.
it's not going to hurt to discuss a date. We want full council here. Granted, it's based on Jerry's availability, but it would be nice to know what date, you know, the entire council can make it.
I could make the 20th work.
Yeah, I mean, I can make the 20th work anytime.
I can make the 20th work.
Yeah, I think I can too.
Okay. So we'll just,
So we're gonna aim for discussing with the candidates as the 20th. Should we just set a time now, and I suppose
I would
we
wait,
want to
yeah.
have Mr. Bunskak.
Yeah, I would wait.
So we're gonna work on the 20th for some timeframes.
I think that makes sense, Mike, yeah. I mean, if we're all in agreement the 20th works, and if we hear back from Jerry that it's not going to work, then we can look at another date. But I like the fact that we're leaving here with the date in mind and a time.
okay.
So
All those-
20th, open and time to be determined.
Yes. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.